It's time for a chat with Pat and her special guest today.
Joseph Pearce, visiting professor of literature at Ave Maria University and visiting fellow at St. Thomas More College of Liberal Arts in Merrimack, New Hampshire, author of over 30 books. I could go on and on, but I want you to listen to him. Hello, Joseph. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is wonderful to hear your voice again. It's been a while since I've been able to talk to you. I want to thank you so much for this article in Crisis Magazine, Singers Silenced by War. You bring up people, obviously, that I have never heard of, and it really made me reflect on what we lost with their deaths, but also how we're experiencing those same kind of things today. But tell me a little bit about how you got to know these people, because there are 5 that were actually killed in the war, and then you talk about, I think it's Siegfried Sassoon, who actually makes it out of the war and converts to Catholicism. But tell us a little bit about how you came up with these people, how you met them.
Yeah, so basically, I've been interested in literary converts. I read a book called Literary Converts about major sort of Catholic writers who converted to the Catholic faith, and Siegfried Sassoon is one of those. So I've had a fascination for him for a long while, and I actually wrote a play which was performed off Broadway a few years back called Death Comes for the War Poets, which focused on Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen. And actually, the point of that was that Death is a character, and Death is converted by Sassoon's conversion, because Death, of course, if you're a non-believer, is something destructive and negative. Whereas, of course, as a Christian, we see it as the gateway to heaven. So that was the point of the play. So I've had a fascination for these war poets in general, and Siegfried Sassoon in particular, for many years.
So what have we lost by the deaths of these men in war? And feel free to be specific about these 5 gentlemen.
Yeah, so basically I talk about, first of all, on all sides. So Siegfried Sassoon, of course, both fought for the British. But Scholl Péguy fought for the French. Reinhard Sorger fought for the Germans. Who else did I mention?
Owens. Brooke and Owens were both British, right? Yeah, and Kilmer, USA, right?
Joyce Kilmer, who fought for the United States. So the point is, as with war is deadly on all fronts, literally, and people were destroyed, killed, wounded, maimed. Loved ones were left bereaved by the deaths of during World War I and World War II, and indeed, the 20th century was the bloodiest in human history in terms of the pure body count. We need to remember that, and I hope these are lessons we learn, by the way, for the 21st century. We don't pursue the path of war, because it's not the way that God wants us to be, actually trying to resolve differences.
Right. So, Joseph, I was quite taken by Sorge because it just, even in his short life, the impact he had. I mean, he went from being kind of a nihilist, being a Nietzsche kind of guy, and then actually had a conversion. What can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, so that he was someone who made a major influence instantly. So certain writers like that, T.S. Eliot, and certain writers that sort of become instantly famous because they've done something sort of different and avant-garde. And Sorge was one of those. So he was very much at the avant-garde of German literature and German theatre in particular, and was sort of lionized as sort of the head of this new anti-Catholic, anti-Christian, secularist, sort of quasi-Marxist new movement in art. And so you can imagine the shock, the sort of seismic waves of horror on the part of some of his former comrades, but of course joy on the part of Christians when he converts to Catholicism and then becomes a very, very enthusiastic convert. Everything he writes after that is profoundly Catholic, and he's very, very much one who is an evangelist in trying to write to not just his friends and family, try to get them to convert also, but actually to other well-known writers to try to get them to see what he's seen in Catholic Christianity. So, and he, again, dies tragically young, and we don't know, of course, what he might have achieved had he survived the war, as Siegfried Sassoon did. But we can at least be thankful that his conversion led to, if you like, a mini healthy explosion of faith, very different from the explosions of the shells which took so many lives in the war.
Oh, yeah. So because their lives are so short, people sometimes think, well, obviously they died too soon. But even in young deaths of young people, we can still find something, some kind of lesson, some kind of good. What do these young men teach us? What can they teach us as still here with on this earth?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, on the negative side, we do need to be aware of great lives snuffed out, including, of course, many that we don't know about. These ones, we can be very grateful. These handful of convert poets, we can be grateful for the fact that they managed to voice their Catholicism before their voices were silenced by being killed in the war. But again, on the positive side, that these writers show us that if you like, the torch is born from one generation to the next, and what they've written lives on. And they live on, of course, in heaven, please God. They live on with God. We don't believe that death is the end. That's one positive thing. But also, we can have a living legacy this side of the grave by what we hand on to others through our good works. And of course, with writers, their good works are published, which means that they're available for millions of people to enjoy. So that's certainly my hope, is that people, and my article, for instance, might actually persuade people to check these great poets and writers that were snuffed out by World War I.
Well, in the little time we have left, tell us a little bit about the gentleman from the USA, Joyce Kilmer. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, so again, he was wonderful, convert to the faith, as was his wife, and they had several children before he died in the war. He became very famous as a Catholic convert, and many people called him the American Chesterton. So although he was a young man, it certainly made a major impact. In fact, I can look down from where I'm standing to Joyce Kilmer's Anthology of Catholic Poets is gracing my bookshelf here. That he actually, was seen to be such a central figure in Catholic literature that he was asked to edit and select this edition of poetry. And of course, his own poetry lives on. It's probably the best known of his poems is the wonderful poem Trees, which has become a 20th century classic. But he wrote many other poems as well. So he's a major figure in 20th century Catholic literature in the United States, even though, again, he could and perhaps should have been able to write much more. But at least we can be grateful for what he did write and the living legacy we have from him.
Well, Joseph, thank you so much for being with us today and telling us about these wonderful literature stars, really, that were snuffed out too soon in our lives and what we can learn from them. So thanks, Joseph. Have a good day.
Thank you. My pleasure. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And our guest, Joseph Pearce, visiting professor of literature, Ave Maria University. I mean, he's got written over 30 books. Great guy. Singer Silenced by War in Crisis Magazine. Take a look at it.
Love it. Thank you.